Sound check 1, ACPD, March 18th. Sound check 1. Sound check 2, ACPD, March 18th. ACPD, sound check 3.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City of Hamilton's Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities March 18th meeting. I will do a roll call now. Please indicate your presence when I call your name. Hope Bonifant has sent regrets. Benjamin Cullimore. Lance Dingman. Lance Dingman's present. Thank you. Kara Hernold.
Present.
Present. Thank you. Levi Genosi.
Here.
Thank you. Leif Johansson.
Here.
Okay. Pargan Carr.
Present.
Thank you. Paula Kilburn has sent regrets. Jake Maurice.
Here.
Welcome. Thank you. Mark McNeil. I'm not seeing Mark. Tim Murphy. I'm not seeing Tim Murphy. Kim Nolan. Oh, sent regrets. Sorry. That's right. I forgot. My apologies. Tim Nolan.
Here.
Thank you. Robert Westbrook. Okay. And Councillor Mark Pattison. No. Would the staff who are present please introduce themselves with their name and position?
Carrie McIntosh, Legislative Coordinator.
And Tamara Bates, Legislative Coordinator.
Thank you.
Michelle Martin, Manager of Accessible Transportation Services with the Transit Division.
Thank you.
Sunil Angrish, Community Project Manager, Community Inclusion and Equity.
Thank you. Is there any? No, there's no other staff present. So now I will call to order. As we have quorum present for today's meeting, I would like to call this meeting the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities to order. As well, a reminder that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during committee meetings. Ceremonial activities. Elsie McIntosh will now read the Hamilton Land Acknowledgement.
The City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon, One Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase, 1792, between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, North America, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers.
Thank you, Elsie McIntosh. Approval of agenda. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Lance, seconded by, I see Kara's hand up. Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda? No? Okay. So are there anybody opposed to the approval of the agenda? I'm seeing none. Agenda is passed. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, you just joined. Okay, thanks. Okay, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? If there were declarations of interest, those who have noted a disqualifying interest, please ensure that when it is time to vote on the matter that you vote abstain, and your disqualifying interest will be noted correctly in the minutes. Those who have noted a non-disqualifying interest will participate impartially in the decision-making processes related to the matter. Approval of minutes of the previous meeting, February 11th, 2025. May I please have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes as presented? Mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
Moved by Levi, seconded by Lance. Perfect. Thank you. There's a couple of different voices there. Is there any discussion on the minutes for last month? Not seeing any. Is there anybody opposed to adopting the minutes of last month? Seeing none. That's carried. Number 6, delegations. Before we begin our delegations for today, members are reminded that questions of the delegations are for clarification purposes, not only for debate. A note to our delegates, you have 5 minutes to complete your delegation. You will hear a tone after 4 minutes, and then you will have an additional minute to finish up. We will hear all of the delegations and then vote to receive. First up, we have 6.1, Tom Cooper, Hamilton Roundtable for Poverty Reduction, respecting a potential partnership with ACPD to develop outreach and educational material to inform about the upcoming Canada Disability Benefit. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Chair. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. Microphone this afternoon. Pardon me? Microphone? Yep, it's working. Thanks. So for those of you who may not know me, I'm Tom Cooper, Director of the Hamilton Roundtable for Poverty Reduction. And the Roundtable has been an organization that has been active in Hamilton for 20 years now. We're celebrating our 20th year of community service. Our priorities have tended to be around income security issues, and as well as really trying to ensure that people with the lived experience of social inclusion and lived experience of poverty have a voice in the decisions that affect their lives. And we've been thrilled to have Lance Dingman as a longtime member of the Roundtable, and certainly for me, having Lance as a friend who I've worked with for more than 20 years now, ever since we journeyed to Queen's Park way back at the beginning of the century to fight for an increase to the personal needs allowance at Queen's Park. But today I'd like to chat a little bit about a forthcoming financial benefit that I think could have a profound impact on persons with disabilities in the community. It's the new Canada Disability Benefit. You may have heard of it. We have been trying to profile the new benefit for the last little while, and James Kemp, along with my colleague Laura Katari, co-hosted a community forum last September to try to do a little bit of educating and informing about this new Canada Disability Benefit. It's not as much as we would like, I think, and I think to a person we could probably agree that there are significant costs to have living with a disability in the community and across the country, and significant additional costs that certainly aren't captured by the woefully inadequate rates of Ontario Disability Support Program and other benefits that may exist in the province and across the country. But we do see the Canada Disability Benefit as a start. It will be $200 a month, I believe starting in July. And it hopefully will enable individuals with a disability to be able to afford some of those necessities in life that have become increasingly unaffordable over the last several years. And we, of course, know that housing and food have skyrocketed in costs over the last little while. This additional $200 may help reduce some of that burden. Unfortunately, we know not everybody is aware of the program yet, and it will take really some assertive outreach, I think, to ensure that community members do know about the potential of the Canada Disability Benefit, to apply for it, what the process is around that. Individuals will have to apply for a disability certificate federally. It's not a matter of just being on ODSP and then automatically being able to get this Canada Disability Benefit, and there will be, quite frankly, some hoops to jump through. And James has spoken I think very importantly about some of those challenges that community members may face. On the other hand, there's a lot of potential in this benefit too. If we look at the numbers in Hamilton, there are upwards of 34,000 individuals in this community who have a disability that certainly impacts their daily lives. And if we break down the numbers, that could potentially mean $82 million coming into the community for those individuals. And that is money that's going to be spent on goods and services here in Hamilton, it's going to help drive economic growth as well, because we know when people are experiencing income inequality and financial stress, the money that they do spend is spent in the community on important items that they need every day. And so that will help, I think, the community from an economic development perspective too, as we get an infusion of potentially up tens of millions of dollars through this benefit. But in order to do that, we need people to ensure that they're receiving the benefit first. And so the ask today from the Hamilton Roundtable for Poverty Reduction, along with our partner in the Community Social Planning and Research Council, is to partner with the Accessibility Committee and look at some ways we can engage the community, develop information clinics to inform individuals who may be eligible to receive the new Canada Disability Benefit, how they go about doing that. We'd also like to engage with medical professionals across town and ensure they're aware of the benefit and they can provide some assistance as well. So really my purpose here today is just to throw open the doors and see if there would be interest with this committee in advocating and developing some communication materials and doing some outreach in the community to ensure that people who might be eligible for the Canada Disability Benefit know about it and can access it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. Is there any questions or comments for Tom Cooper? Yep, go ahead, Lance.
I would just like to say that by hearing this, I think this is something that something to look forward to. In my opinion, I think this is something strong to think about. That's for sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lance. I believe next up is Tim.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Just takes a moment to activate the mute button on mute. Thanks very much for this presentation, Tom. I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of meeting you formally, but my name is Tim Nolan. I've been a member of this advisory committee since 2002. Just one moment, please. Yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, I've been a member of this committee since 2002. And so one of the things that's been often on the radar of this committee is the correlation between disability and income. This committee has not historically undertaken a whole lot of initiative on that relationship, but it's probably important that we do that, particularly in light of the new Canada Disability Benefit. And there's probably a lot of people who could and probably should qualify for the benefit, but may not know about it. So I think it's a great initiative, and I would certainly support it. But I have a question that's kind of related, but not exactly related to the Canada Disability Benefit. And that is, I'll be delegating to this committee sometime after you today to talk about the impact of HSR bus fares upon people with disabilities and presumably the most impoverished people with disabilities in our community, and how the HSR's new Fare Assist program, or I guess not so new Fare Assist program, impacts the ability of people with disabilities to travel in our community. So I don't know if there's some opportunity for you to connect with me offline, because there is a bit of a coalition of groups from the community trying to address that whole HSR bus fare issue as it relates to people with disabilities. So maybe there's an opportunity there, and certainly it may not be directly correlated to the Canada Disability Benefit, but it certainly falls within that broader construct of disability and income, which is, as you know, important across the community. So
Thanks, Tim.
just wanted to put that out.
Thanks, Tim. So,
Through you, Chair. Thank you so much, Tim. Absolutely, I'd be very interested in providing any support that would be appropriate to that initiative. The roundtable has not so much in the last couple of years, but certainly over the history of our initiative, been quite interested in affordable public transit, but also looking at as I mentioned earlier, the really inadequate rates of social assistance that individuals are forced to subsist on in this province. A number of years ago, with colleagues at Hamilton Community Legal Clinic, we developed a proposal around a rates-based advisory board that could advise the provincial government on what would be an appropriate amount to provide people on social assistance. And part of that included transportation, because as you inferred, it is absolutely critical for social inclusion, for well-being, for health, to enable individuals to be able to move around the community. And if those rates are so low that you can't afford a bus ticket, can't afford a Presto Pass, certainly, to not only get to a doctor's appointment, but to engage in social activities with friends, with family members, that is going to have a tremendous cost on the individual's well-being, and I would argue a tremendous cost on the community as well. And so for sure, we'd be interested in looking at any potential assistance we could provide on that issue.
thanks, Tom. I don't see any other questions or comments. Can somebody take the chair? I don't believe we have a designated.
I just had a quick question, Jane.
Yep, go ahead, Kargan.
Sorry, I'm just not able to raise my hand there. Just wanted to ask, I apologize if it's already been asked and cutting out a bit for me, but I'm just wondering, what support are you getting from the city, if at all, or from public health or kind of other municipal committees or organizations to share this information? Like, is there an effort that's already being made, or just curious, like, how people are going to be getting this information otherwise?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the entirety of it. I heard what support are we getting from somebody, but I didn't hear the organization you mentioned.
Yes, sorry, I was just wondering, in terms of the city, is there any support or kind of communication plans in place from the city already?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great question through you, Chair. I'm actually going to Emergency and Community Services Committee on Thursday, and my colleague Laura Katari will be talking about this issue and looking for support from the city. Again, this is, I think, potentially something that the City of Hamilton would be interested in rallying around, given the fact that it would be supporting individuals. Again, we would argue that the amount of the Canada Disability Benefit should be much higher, but even $200 a month is significant when so many people are living on the edge of poverty and below poverty level incomes. And so I would think this would be an area where the City of Hamilton would be interested in getting behind. Also through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, income security has been identified as one of the 6 priorities for the city. And so this fits nicely into that initiative as well. And so I would hope that we'll be able to garner some support, but I think the voice of this committee would be a very strong ally in helping to push the city as a whole to move this forward.
Thanks very much, Tom. So again, if I could have somebody take over the chair for me, please. How about Kara? Mind taking the chair for me?
Sure thing. Go ahead, James, with your comment.
Very much.
Question.
First off, thanks very much, Tom. Congrats on the 20 years. I know you guys are active in a lot of different things in the city, so I want to thank you for that. I know that you mentioned DTC clinics, so disability tax credit clinics. For those of you who don't know, is a difficult form to fill out. Most people get denied several times before they're approved, and it certainly is tricky. My question to you is, would you be looking at hosting these DTC clinics, for example, at like RCFs or whatnot? Because I can see that being a significant area for us to reach out to.
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks for the question. I think it's an important opportunity to go into residential care facilities and talk to the tenants who are living in those facilities to ensure they're aware of the opportunity to sign up for the Canada Disability Benefit. So, yeah, I would see that as being part of the plan and maybe doing some outreach within the homes. And we will have to pull together and cobble together some resources to make that happen. But I think it's an excellent idea.
Excellent. My follow-up question is, you asked if we would be willing. I know that the Housing Working Group has been working on financial issues for the last couple of years, especially because it affects rent so much. The Housing Working Group and the Outreach Working Group would be happy to work with you. My question for you is, would you be willing to work with us over the next month so that next ACPD we might have something to at least present to the committee for them to decide whether they'd like to participate or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. And that is my last question.
All right. Thank you, James, and thank you, Tim. James, I'll hand the chair back over to you.
Thanks very much. Is there any other questions before we say goodbye to Tom? Last time? No? Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate you coming down, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Much. Okay. Next up, we have 6.2, Brad Evoy, Disability Justice Network of Ontario, respecting a request for endorsement of community recommendations for a new disability-centered fare program.
Hello, folks. My name is Brad Evoy. I'm a member of the Halabu Mi'kmaq Nation, and I'm the Executive Director at Disability Justice Network of Ontario. So I'm going to try to keep my comments relatively brief, friends, because we've spoken, I think, many times on issues around transit fares here in Hamilton. And so, you know, a while back, a group of community organizations, including ourselves, the Accessible Hamilton Alliance, and, you know, grassroots community members had done a series of consultations on existing fare programs. And you know, after a lot of kind of back and forth amongst ourselves, as well as with you and other folks around the city, you know, we've come to a set of recommendations. And our hope at this point is that the Community Coalition's recommendations could be endorsed by this committee formally and hopefully moved forward through City Council in some form or another in the next little while. But our hope, rather than readdressing issues around Fare Assist, is to create a supplementary and sibling program to the existing program. In particular, you know, based in meaningful consultation with persons with disabilities across the city, you know, including ACPD and beyond, as well as representatives of organizations and, you know, grassroots community members, as well as students in schools, both secondary and post-secondary. But in particular, with a mind towards expanded eligibility for those who are currently excluded by the Fare Assist program, including those on CPP disability, WSIB, those with CNIB membership, and those in related social service and membership programs. And that the fare rate for those discounts be considered for all forms of transit, all fare types, and that the amount of discount be set based on consultation with disabled riders, and that it would apply to all modes of transportations under the auspices of HSR. Now, we'd hope that this would be a pilot in a similar way to Fair Assist, in the way that it has been rolled out, but that, again, this more expanded reach could really move things forward for folks who feel left out of that program and who've been experiencing, frankly, a very difficult winter. You know, as we've just kind of spoken about a little bit, you know, many folks in our community are feeling that they are being punished for being poor, and that this is an extension of legislated poverty through an admittedly low discount within Fair Assist. So we hope that a new program would be able to address some of these overall concerns. And I think that, you know, for many folks in the community, as we found in our consultations, you know, regardless of what the numbers might look like in certain statistics, many folks are saying that they are not able to ride the bus, that they're simply walking, and that this has been going on throughout the entirety of the winter. Further, friends, you know, I think we really need to think about this in the context of wider economic instability. The reality is, things are already bad for our communities across the city. And, you know, with the impacts of rising costs due to tariff wars and other broader economic instability, there's even greater risk for those, you know, on OW, on ODSP, and all these other related programs that are currently excluded. So I want to leave it there. And, you know, if folks have further questions, I know that many folks in the committee have already seen the recommendations document, as have folks around the city. So, you know, our hope would be that this is a fruitful and productive conversation amongst, you know, all of us in the community and with the city to move this forward and to really think about long-term sustainable ways to make as inclusive a program as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Are there any questions for Brad? I'm not seeing any. Okay, thank you, Brad, for that presentation. Our delegation, we will move on to 6.3, Tim Nolan, Accessibility Hamilton Alliance, respecting transit discussion.
Okay, thank you. So I'm now wearing a different hat. So I'm wearing the Accessibility Hamilton Alliance hat just for the moment. Brad explained what we're hoping to achieve, I think, very clearly. I don't know if Tom Cooper is still on the meeting or in attendance, but I think some partnership with the Roundtable on Poverty might be very helpful in this initiative. It's my understanding that there was some hesitation on the part of Paula, the chair of the Transportation Working Group, and James, chair of this committee, to have the ACPD put forward a recommendation to City Council on an alternate bus fare program for people with disabilities who live in poverty. And much of that hesitation arises from some previous recommendations to City Council and Council's reaction to those recommendations from the ACPD. That said, I think there was an agreement that it may be better if this coalition of community groups bring forward a request to Council to consider an alternate or a sibling or a different bus fare program for people with disabilities who live in poverty. And that in that recommendation or that process of bringing forward this question to Council, that we at the very least be able to say we have the endorsement of the ACPD. So hence the presentation by Brad and here by me to ask if this committee would be prepared to accept or put forward some kind of motion pertaining to support of this community coalition on the establishment of a sibling or alternate or different bus fare program for people with disabilities who live in poverty. So Brad did a great job of explaining the work that's been undertaken and sort of the vision of this coalition of groups. And I think we are at a place now where we need to act on this and hope that council sees some value and meaning in what we are proposing to put forward. So happy to receive any questions and respond. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Tim. Any questions for Tim? I'm seeing none. Thank you very much for your delegation, Tim. 6.4, Brad Evoy, Disability Justice Network of Ontario, respecting item 9.2, consultation with staff to review policy that affects unhoused persons with disabilities and tour shelter facilities to provide recommendations to make them a safer and more inviting space for all. Go ahead, Brad.
Yes. Hello again, folks. You know who I am, so I won't go into that again. But thank you so much for allowing me to speak to this. This was an additional...
Pardon me, Brad. Can we just have you introduce yourself one more time?
Oh, sure.
For the benefit
Absolutely.
of the public. Thank you.
Certainly. I'll start over. Hello, folks. My name is Brad Evoy. I'm the Executive Director for Disability Justice Network of Ontario. And so again, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak to this. I think it's really important for this committee to move forward with this request. As we've seen throughout the implementation of strategies around, serving disabled and unhoused folks in the city, there is a lot of gaps in those processes, a lot of broader concerns. And I think that, the work that the committee proposes to do to have some oversight in that is really important. I want to emphasize that in particular, this is really important on the basis that, number one, the AODA enforcement structures that exist from the province are very weak and certainly will not be in play when we're looking at any kind of monitoring around systems for unhoused folks in the city. I think it's really important that someone is doing that work and, keeping an eye on things where they can. And I think it's great that this committee wants to help support in that way. Further to that point, I would say that, the folks at the Federal Housing Advocate and the Canadian Human Rights Commission are doing some great work around data collection on these pieces for broader statistics. And I think it would be great for this committee if you do have any particular findings for this that come out of this, that it would be great to keep in touch with them, as well as broader community organizations that are also concerned with this work. So again, I really am just wanting to say thank you for continuing to keep up on this matter. It's been something that I've seen James, I think, at every delegation that I've been at around this issue now and again in the last couple of months. And it's been very great to see that this committee is involved in this. The reality is the statistics show that unhoused populations in this city and across the country are disabled communities. They are our community. And, it's something that we have to keep fundamentally in mind as we move forward to support folks in a human rights-based approach.
Thank you very much, Brad. Is there any questions for Brad? I'm seeing none. I want to thank you very much, Brad, for coming out for both of your delegations. We will vote on delegation 6.3 separately. So may I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation 6.3? Mover and a seconder.
Mark.
Lance moves, seconded by Mark. Perfect. Is there any opposed to receiving 6.3? I'm seeing none. Okay, that's carried. Now we will have a mover and a seconder to receive 6.1, 6.2, and 6.4. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Jake, seconded by Kara. Thank you. I'll get you next time, Levi. I saw that. Is there anybody opposed to receiving 6.1, 6.2, and 6.4? Seeing none, that is carried. Items for information, accessibility for entertainment at the city, I believe will have to be deferred. Do we need a motion to defer, or we just? Withdrawn, okay, so it's just withdrawn, okay. So we will move on to 7.2. Oh, 7.2 is also withdrawn. 7.3, we'll get there. PW 25009, Accessible Transportation Services Performance Report revised. Michelle Martin, Manager, Accessible Transportation Services, here to discuss this item. Just give us a brief overview of what this event is.
Thank you. Through the chair, Michelle Martin, Manager of Accessible Transportation Services with the Transit Division. This memo outlines a plan for streamlining the reporting of accessible transportation services performance statistics, moving to an annual, and proposes a plan based on previous discussion with the Transportation Working Group to move to an annual report for both the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities and for the Public Works Committee, and provide quarterly statistics to the Transportation Working Group for discussion ahead of those reports.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Michelle. Are there any questions on this issue, on this memorandum? I am seeing none. Okay, so then I need a mover and a seconder to receive the memorandum. Levi, I saw your hand up before. Yeah, seconded by Kara. Perfect. Thank you. Levi, seconded by Kara. Is there anybody opposed to receiving the memorandum? I'm seeing none. That's carried. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, we are going to hear all the information items 7.3 to 7.9 and then receive them together at the end. I will have to relinquish the chair. Kara, would you mind taking over again?
You've got it. I will hand it over to you, James.
Thank you very much. Okay, 7.4 is Built Environment Working Group update.
Hi, just your control.
Pardon me?
Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, okay. 7.4, okay, I already did that. So Built Environment Working Group, we met the beginning of this month. We had a really in-depth discussion with many staff members regarding various things about construction redirections, sidewalk design, APS buttons, bike lanes, and accessible washrooms. So we got a lot of work done in the last Built Environment Working Group meeting. The notes are a little bit more detailed. There was something I wanted to mention, but it's totally escaped me at the moment. Yep, totally escaped me. I apologize. So are there any questions on the, well, I guess that's not Mike. That's Kara, I guess.
Thanks, James. Good prompt. Are there any questions for James on the Built Environment Working Group meeting minutes? I don't see any. Make sure I go through the group. All right, so do I need to, does anyone want to put forward a motion and a seconder to accept the meeting minutes?
No.
Hi, Carol. We don't need to at this time. We can accept them all together at the end.
Okay, great. I will hand the chair back over to James then.
Oh, no, you got to hold on to it again. We're going on to housing.
Oh, okay. Over to you.
Yeah,
we are at 7.5. Housing Working Group update.
Yes, we are. Thank you very much. Again, the Housing Working Group met March the 4th. I apologize, everybody. Need to remind myself. Oh yeah, universal accessible design. We were expecting to hear back from Sam Hanna from the Social Policy Division sometime in the fall regarding a report on universal accessible design, and we haven't heard from him. So I reached out, and Sam explained that he's now moved on to the homelessness file for housing services, but he's still working on this report. It's just been backburnered for a little while. He's hoping to get back to us in the next couple of months. So we should hear some information on the universal accessible design very soon. He also mentioned that Timo from the Housing Secretariat, who we're connected with, also is no longer with that department. And so we'll help to reconnect us with somebody else. And when the report is finished, he will help us connect with Hamilton is Home, the group of social housing providers. I think that's about it.
All right. Are there any questions for James regarding the housing working group update?
No?
I don't see anything. Okay.
Keep your eye on the chat, Kara, for the speakers list. If there's any questions, then they'll be typed into the speakers list.
Okay, great. I don't see anyone on the speakers list. I think that means we can move on to 7.6.
Correct. Outreach working group updates. Outreach working group met. Oh, wait, these meeting notes weren't attached, so we can't accept these right now, correct? So I will just give a brief update. Unfortunately, the last time we met, we put through a motion to work with climate justice on a climate justice framework. As it turns out, just before I handed in the application, we found out that we are not valid to participate in that particular program. So that is essentially what was updated at that outreach meeting group, outreach working group meeting, I should say. So unfortunately, we won't be able to participate in that.
I do see the meeting notes attached to the agenda for the outreach working group.
Oh. I guess it must have just been in the paper version then. Okay, then I guess we can accept that, can we?
Mm-hmm.
Not attached.
Oh, okay. Then no.
Sorry,
okay,
Kara,
sorry.
I don't think they're attached. I don't show it on my screen.
Oh, sorry.
And I didn't attach them.
Okay, all right, never mind, James, you were right. My apologies. Any questions for the outreach working group?
Okay.
I'm not seeing any. So we can move on to 7.7, strategic planning working group update.
Okay, thank you. I just want to quickly step back to that. In talking with Beatrice from Climate Change, they will come back to us about something that we can participate in, just in a different format. I just forgot to mention that, sorry. Strategic Planning Working Group update. There is no update. We haven't met in a while. I would like to set up a meeting in the next month or two. I have an idea for a couple of things I'd like to discuss with the Strategic Planning Working Group, so that will be coming up soon. So that's it for that. And the 7.8 Transportation Working Group updates. I don't have a verbal update. I don't have meeting notes for a couple of months, so I don't have anything to say on that.
All right, any more questions before I hand the chair back over to James? I am not seeing any. Back over to James for chair for 7.9.
Thank you very much, Kara. I will call on you again shortly. 7.9, Open Spaces and Parklands Working Group updates. I know the answer, but Tim, is there a verbal update?
No report. That OT student report is still in the hands of staff, and I have not heard anything back from them, so there's been no meeting, so no action.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. So then may I please have a mover and a seconder to receive items 7.4, 7.5, 7.7, and 7.8. And 7.9, sorry. Just Mark. Missing the 7.6. Mark and Kara. Okay, is there anybody opposed to accepting these items? I'm seeing none, and that's carried. Oh, and I have to relinquish the chair again. I said I'd call on you again in a minute, Kara.
All right, we are on to items for consideration.
9.1.
9.1, sorry. Yeah. Light LRT.
Further investigation of light rail transit systems in neighboring municipalities for members of the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and I will read it out. Whereas the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities has concerns about the accessibility of Hamilton's light rail transit project and would like to tour Metrolinx's most current accessibility features on the Finch Light Rail Transit Project in Toronto. Whereas members of the ACPD have visited the Kitchener-Waterloo Grand River Ion and raised many concerns about its accessibility for all disabilities and would like to compare the two projects to confirm that Metrolinx is learning from past projects and is incorporating better accessibility. Whereas this will be a joint trip between the Transportation Working Group and the Built Environment Working Group, and whereas this will allow the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities to provide more current and accurate recommendations to the Light Rail Transit Subcommittee and Light Rail Transit Project Planners. Therefore, be it resolved, A, that members of the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities be approved to travel to neighboring municipalities to review and identify accessibility barriers of light rail transit systems in neighboring municipalities like Toronto and make recommendations respecting barrier removal and prevention in compliance with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act and the Ontario Human Rights Code, and let the transportation costs be funded from the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities 2025 approved budget for conferences and related travel expenses, account number 300030 to an upset limit of $1,000. We don't need to ask people, we have to get that approved before we ask for people, correct? To participate? We have to have this approved, right?
No, at the same time.
At the same time? So we can ask for people to ask to participate. I believe we have to follow quorum rules, right? So no more than 7?
Correct.
Correct. So we need 7 people to participate. Anybody like to volunteer? I know I would. I think Jake would. Anybody else? Going to Toronto to tour the LRT and the Finch LRT.
I wouldn't mind going.
Mark?
James?
Okay. So there's 3 of us for now. Can people ask to participate at a later date as well? Okay, so that's what we'll do. So we'll just put our 3 names down and then other people can participate as we know more, when the date arises and people know their schedules better, I think.
Sorry, the next question here, but I'd love to be part of this.
I couldn't hear you, Hargan, pardon me?
I just mentioned I'd love to join. Can you hear me?
Try one.
I just mentioned I'd love to join as well, James.
Okay, Hargan, yes. Okay, excellent. So Hargan was on the list as well. So that'll leave 3 more spaces open, and we'll inform everybody as we know more. I'm just going to have to go to council first. So.
James, can we follow up with an email to the ACPD membership to canvass for additional participation?
Oh, we would need to.
Up
to X number.
Chair,
okay.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Tim.
Does it have to be only members from ACPD, or could it be other people from the community who may have interest?
No, this one has to be ACPD.
Mm.
Okay, so we will just have the motion written to X number of people, and we will confirm everybody's attendance as we get it approved and as we set up the date. That makes the best sense.
Tim, again, can I ask another question?
Certainly. Oh, I'm the wrong person. Kara,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
So through you to our clerk, Carrie, if we amended the motion somewhat, would it be possible for other people from the community to participate should they have interest, or does it not matter since the funds are coming from the ACPD budget? It can only be ACPD members.
That's correct, Tim, through the chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, so.
Okay. What do I need to do here? Do I need to ask for a mover and a seconder?
We have a mover. We need a seconder. James is the mover.
Okay. Can we have a seconder?
Lance says he'll second it.
All right. Thank you very much. I shall hand the chair back over.
You have to ask if anybody is opposed.
Oh, is anyone opposed?
Not seeing anyone.
No. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
We have 9.2 on the agenda too. And
you
and the
need me to
motion
share for that
carried,
too?
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
And then we have
9.1 is carried.
correct.
9.2.
Consultation with staff to review policy that affects unhoused persons with disabilities and tour shelter facilities to provide recommendations to make them a safer and more inviting space for all. I'll just read this out quickly. Whereas there is a housing crisis and persons with disability are disproportionately represented among the unhoused population of the city of Hamilton, and that these persons represent a wide variety of different types of disabilities. Whereas the current shelter system is considered to be low barrier access, this is not to be confused with fully accessible. Shelter spaces are accessible to visit, but that does not mean they are accessible to reside there for any amount of time. There is no ability to accommodate on an individual basis, nor is there an opportunity to offer isolated space, even if it is essential for the individual's safety and those around them. Whereas the definition of safe accommodation can vary depending on a person's need and disabilities. We must do what we can to ensure that shelters are able to provide safe spaces above and beyond protection from the elements. Whereas there is not an available accessibility plan for the Barton and Tiffany microshelter site, and the Accessible Committee for Persons with Disabilities would like to review the site and make recommendations to make it a more complete and accommodating space for persons with disabilities. And whereas the encampment protocol has now been discontinued and bylaw officers and police will now be forcing relocations on anyone still living rough and in violation of current bylaws, we must find ways of making shelters better so that persons with disabilities will choose to use them over living in tents and encampments. Therefore, be it resolved that the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities Housing Working Group requests permission to work with the Housing Services Division and the Housing Secretariat in order to understand the sheltering system as it currently operates, so we better offer recommendations to improve their accessibility for persons with disabilities. And B, the Housing Working Group requests permission to tour shelter facilities as well as the microcabin site on Barton and Tiffany in order that we may better understand the challenges of operating a shelter system as well as offer suggestions for change.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Seeing none.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions.
Lance has a question.
Oh, go ahead.
We will be touring the sites too as well there at the shelters. Will we be looking at them shelters or getting to know them at all, or?
The request is for us to review shelter spaces as well as the micro shelter site on Barton and Tiffany.
Okay. And so what's that entail of? What exactly are we going to do?
We're going to tour the facility so that we understand exactly how it works, and then we're going to make recommendations based on what we found to improve the accessibility.
That's what it sounds like it's saying to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Tim Nolan has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Is this motion, is it consistent with what Brad Evoy is? Oh, hang on one second. Sorry, but when I'm speaking and the raised hand function is changed, there's an automated voice message that interferes with speaking. So that said, is this motion consistent with what Brad Evoy was talking about? And if so, is there a way to somehow make a friendly amendment to the motion to involve the DJNO in this endeavor?
Tim, can you please expand the acronym you used?
Oh, the Disability Justice Network of Ontario. That's what
Oh.
That's for whom Brad Evoy works.
Okay, thank you.
Brad Evoy was talking about this issue earlier in his delegation. It's a two-part question. So first is what Brad was speaking about during his delegation consistent with what is proposed here in this motion? And if so, is it doable to make a friendly amendment to this motion to ask that the DJNO be party to this endeavor?
For one, yes, Brad Evoy's delegation on this matter was in support of this motion directly. Was appreciative that we were putting this work forward. Second, as far as I understand, we can't add the DJNO to this. I believe that we would have to come up with a different sort of plan to work with the DJNO on any sort of housing work, but we can do that in the future.
Yeah, I would just hate to lose the opportunity to have this committee engage with other community organizations in the same way that it would appear that we're prepared to work with the Roundtable on Poverty. If we're prepared to do that, I don't know why we wouldn't be prepared to work with the DJNO.
For that exact example, Tim, I will be coming back next month with a plan for us to be working with the Roundtable for Poverty Reduction on the subject that they brought up with us. The same thing could happen with the DJNO, but we don't have a plan before us at the moment.
Okay, but I'm not asking for a plan. I'm just asking that we work with them. So, I mean, if this is a motion going to council recommending that, some kind of particular activity take place, I don't know why we can't include DJNO as a partner in this if DJNO is prepared to do that. But
well, again, we would have to consult with the DJNO, and we're not in a position to do that at the moment.
So Kara, what we could do is Tim could put forward an amendment if the mover, who is James, doesn't want to do a friendly amendment.
Okay, Tim, would you like to put forward an amendment?
Yeah, I'm prepared to put forward an amendment, and that would be that where the opportunity exists, the ACPD. So where the opportunity exists, the ACPD might reach out to the Disability Justice Network of Ontario to seek their participation or engagement in this initiative, should they be interested. Or should they have interest?
Not just an individual motion.
Carrie, I'm not really sure what to do. As the chair here.
I have recorded what Tim said, so.
Okay. So do we move on
Tim
from
needs
this
a
item?
seconder.
Oh.
I do not have a seconder for that motion, so if it doesn't get a seconder, then I guess it doesn't fly. But it would be very disappointing that we would
I second it.
be ill prepared to engage somebody from the community.
Mark, did you second it?
Yeah. I also have one question before we second it. The text in 6.4 is extremely similar, if not identical, to 9.2. So I think that the DJNO is after the same goal as the ACPD. So I think an amendment would be worthwhile to allow the two parties to talk to each other on achieving the same ends. That's just my thoughts anyway, but I am still willing to second that motion.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so Mark McNeil is recorded as the seconder, and then I saw in the speaker list we have Mark Tateson with a question.
No, I was just trying to alert them that Mark wanted to second that, and
Okay.
that I think that it would be. Again, it's up to James, but I just thought that it would be a friendly amendment because it was in the way that Tim worded it. It was worded to the sense that it would be the ACPD that reaches out to the Justice Network when they feel it's appropriate. So I didn't know if it needed to be an amendment or a friendly amendment. I was just going to offer that consulting kind of a position, but I'm good with the way that it's going, and I will be supporting the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Are there any other questions from the group? Okay, I will leave it there. And that's the conclusion of 9.2.
No, we need to vote on the amendment
and
then
vote
on 9.2 as amended.
Oh boy. So what do we do to vote? Do I... I'm wildly unqualified to chair.
That's okay, you're doing good.
Ask for the vote on the amendment from Tim, as seconded by Mark.
Okay, so we can vote on the amendment from Tim as seconded by Mark.
All in favor?
All in favor. Yes, hands up.
Any opposed?
And the opposed.
In the room? I see none opposed.
Okay,
so
that carries.
Yep.
Okay.
And now we have to vote on the main motion as amended.
Oh boy. Okay. Do we need a do we
James
vote?
needs a seconder for the motion.
Oh boy. Okay. Seconder for the James's motion, for the original motion.
I just didn't write it down.
Mark. Did you get someone?
Yep, Mark.
Okay. Okay. All in favor? Do we vote for this now?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor.
Yeah.
And then opposed.
Nobody's opposed.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, everyone, for your patience as I stumbled.
Tim, you had your hand up.
Can I just ask it? Yeah, I just want to. I was going to second the amended motion, but that's been done. Can I just ask a question? It was hard to hear. Was anybody opposed to the motion as it was amended?
No, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I will take back the chair.
Please.
You did great, Chair. Thank you very much. Well done. You did great in the hot seat. Okay, 11, general information, other business. Is there any general information or other business anybody would like to mention at this time? Tim Nolan.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, to Carrie, the legislative assistant. Is this the appropriate section in which to put forward potentially a motion respecting support from the ACPD, should it be willing, with regard to supporting the Disability Justice Network of Ontario, the Accessibility Hamilton Alliance, and the Coalition of Community Organizations, respecting an alternate or new or sibling bus fare program for people with disabilities who live in extreme poverty?
Through the chair, no, this would not be the appropriate time. The appropriate time would be with the next agenda.
Okay, so that would be next at the April meeting.
You require information and a motion.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, so my question is, do we require a notice of motion now?
If you get it to me before the next agenda, you don't require a notice of motion.
Okay, So we would have to pull something and send it off to you, and then it would be on the next agenda for discussion and decision, I presume.
Correct. As long as we have all the information and a motion before us, we would move it at the next agenda, yes.
Just move it if someone can. Yeah, he needs to know that. Tim, you can't move the motion because you're the delegate? So someone would need to move it.
You mean at the next meeting, I would not be able to move it?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, thank you.
Okay, is there any other business? I am seeing none, so I will say this is an adjournment. There being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned at 5:09, I think it is.
5:08.
5:08, sorry. 5:08. I want to thank you all for coming. This was a great meeting. And